Answer: pants, 50% off. Epstein makes several important observations about the powerful effect of culture. First, if there really is an evolutionary force driving the behaviors of the classic teenaged brain, you should see the following. Teenagers all over the world should show classic behavioral, rebellious, and foolish traits. After all, the risk of too much sex with too close a relative poses genetic hazards no matter what culture you examine. Now, you do find common behaviors all over the world. Risk-taking actually is one, but it's not as dramatic or as widespread as you might think. Epstein points to a study, now many years old, looking at adolescent behavior in 186 pre-industrialized societies. The research did not find lots of classic, impulsive, obnoxious, get me away from my parents' teenage behavior in all of them. In fact, they found the opposite. More than half the young males exhibited no rebellious behavior at all. Teens in these cultures spent most of their time hanging around their parents. They often helped with the chores, both in family and in broader social activities. If one is going to pose an absolute evolutionary argument for certain behaviors in the adolescent brain devoid of culture, this is not a comfortable finding. Now, it's important to remember that people who are skeptical about the origins of teenage obnoxiousness don't necessarily believe teenagers are angels. Teenage obnoxiousness exists, at least in the West. Epstein's second point is a great example of this. It comes from a study that has a causal twinge to it. The cause is not genetic. The cause is environmental. He points to a study which showed you could induce classic teenage obnoxiousness in cultures that don't have it naturally. You do it by contaminating them with specific inputs from the cultures that do, like an infectious disease. He cites work done by a pair of Harvard anthropologists working with a First Nations culture, the Inuit of Canada, of Victoria Island. Classic teenage behavior, including an increase in crime and delinquency, did not occur until the tribe got their first exposures to Western media. This included TV and Western-style education as practiced in the early 1980s. Less than a decade after introduction, classic teenage behavioral profiles were in full flower. There was more aggressive behavior, less conflict management, more problems with social control. The Inuit had to create their very first police station. They had to start actively combating problems they never had to wrestle with before. When I was preparing this lecture, I ran across this quip that could have easily come from the parents of this tribe. Two moms are talking. My friend asked me the other day if I've ever paid for sex. I reminded her that I have teenagers. So yes, I have paid dearly for it. Nature, nurture. Who's right? B.J. Casey, who says there are evolutionary components to adolescent behaviors, or Robert Epstein, who says not so fast? To talk about this, we have to get into the second part of our discussion, so let's do it. So, here's the answer